I believe that's your topic, Mao.
Buttery
Immersion.
Just buttery smooth. Yes, my topic is immersion, which something when we were talking about, I don't know, Yakuza in the chat a while ago.
Oh God.
It brought it back to the forefront of my mind.
We're talking about how awesome that game looks. How not Ted's core it is.
Right. Yes, I figured we could talk about the concept of immersion. If anything really, if you guys ever get immersed in your games, or what what really does it for you, or what snaps you out of it? No,
never. I've never been immersed. Or Mao.
You're confusing us now.
I'm so unimmersed. I don't even remember your names.
Did you do that on purpose?
So immersed on this podcast.
I actually like immersion a lot. I think it's a pretty important part to any game, to any media, whatever.
Hi, Lily.
Hi, Lily.
What?
Let me talk about immersion now that Matt is completely unimmersed.
I was speaking. That's what I hate. My wife moved me out of immersion. I'm so upset right now. No, I was gonna say
fourth wall break.
She got scared by Ghidorah because I had taken down we had a spider, so I was killing it, and as any good samurai would do to a spider clan.
Yeah.
And I took off like the giant Ghidorah figure she has, and I set it off to the side, and apparently that scared the crap out of her. I don't know why. But no, I was gonna say, like, for immersion, back onto something more important than my wife's health and a state of mind. I actually think immersion is a really key point to a lot, both games and media, and it's very important because without immersion, you're very much aware that what you're watching may be great, but it's a movie or it's a game. You're not pulled into it. Immersion is really important for both empathy, which is a very hard thing to capture for a game. And some people just don't have it. So, I mean, there's that too.
Sure.
But yeah. Those people,
no.
Yeah. Some people are never able to draw into a game like that. But for people who really want to connect or who need that aid of it, immersion is really important in that step of connection with the character to really feel the moment for what it is. And that's a very hard thing to do. One of the biggest things I'm going to pull out here, and probably a bad example to utilize because it's a huge spoiler, but here we go. Final Fantasy VII.
Oh no, don't spoil that. 20-something-year-old game, 22-year-old game.
They're just about to release it.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh God, Mal made a great point there.
Next year. It's true. So if you have not played Final Fantasy VII, you're going to pick up the new one. Stop. Wait just 5 minutes, okay? And you can come back into it. Or Obs, put like a timestamp or something. Just
I'm too lazy.
Too lazy. I know you are. God, you're lazy.
Anyway.
In Final Fantasy VII, one of the most immersive points that they pull in the game is the death of Aerith. And when she is killed by Sephiroth.
I'm sorry, who?
Sorry, Aerith. I'm sorry. I need to
her true name. No,
I'm gonna call it Aerith now, just because. But when she dies in the game by Sephiroth, she gets shanked from behind by him. That moment was probably one of the greatest moments in the 90s for a game. There is quite literally, it was talked about even decades later as moments where people openly and freely admit to crying at that scene. It was so tragic to them. And it really pulled at them. And at that moment, when you play the game and you go through that moment, you know exactly why. Because it lines up. The music sets the tone. The thoughts of the individuals realizing that they're never going to be able to say anything to this person again. They're gone. Sudden, swift. It's just immediate. There's no chance to come to terms with it and to build up to it and, accept it. And the thoughts and the feelings that they have, the tragedy of this whole scene at somebody who is ultimately absolutely heartless about it, hits you in all the right ways. It's very well done. And it's why so many people freely and openly, not even trying to show how manly they are or how caring they are, will freely openly admit that this is the scene that got them. As a kid, as an adult, as a teenager, it didn't matter. It was across the spectrum of age, and that's what made it so great. It was just this very strong, raw emotion, but it immersed you. It pulled you in the moment things happen because it builds up that moment wonderfully so. It builds up to a moment where you think Cloud is going to kill him, and it's not. He actually is able to stop himself from doing it. And
it's the double fakerisky.
it is. It's truly the double faker, and then they hit you with that FMV or the full motion video, because that's what they're called, before they finally got rid of those and just turned them into like really well done CGI and cinematics now. But when they did that, it was phenomenal, and that is like I think the pinnacle of an immersive moment in a game. And it really helps define like why I find immersion to be needed, because if you're watching a movie and you're not immersed into that, if you're watching a game and not immersed into it, you're always going to be technically self-aware of that. You might see really cool things, but you're aware that you're watching a movie. You're not pulled into it. The opening to Saving Private Ryan is one of the most I guess I wouldn't say quote unquote gory openings, but very visceral in its approach to everything in what that storming the beaches were like for US soldiers and obviously Canadian other soldiers who were also storming beaches as well. But it really gives you like a very brutal look at that approach. And I remember again, just at the moment, like anybody I've watched with that moment or have seen or talked about the moment, so they were just really sucked in. They were on their seat watching. They forgot that they were really watching a movie. They knew, in the back of their mind, they knew it was a movie, but they were so pulled
it's just
into the
strong
moment.
enough that it just pulls them in and lets them
You're on the roller coaster. It truly was a very powerful moment. There's very few people that I think really recognize they just weren't pulled into that, but that's the kind of thing that helps. I think it's really important. I obviously have said it like 3 times now, but without that, you truly will not be able to pull at the emotional levels. And I mean, it's not impossible. I don't want to give the impression off that in my opinion, like it's not possible. You can obviously pull at like tug at emotional strings and certainly leave an impact on somebody after that, even if they're not truly immersed in the motion, because sometimes it could be just a simple line or a delivery of something that can really suddenly kind of go like, wow, that's actually a really good point. And I'm sure we've all done that at some point in a movie or show. It's like, wow, that's actually a really good, well done. Or that's like, that character made a really solid, counterpoint to some arguments. And you agree with it and it sticks with you, but being immersed in the moment absolutely leaves it as a picture that will go far, far longer in your mind than one that doesn't.
Is there anything in particular you've noticed that really helps you get immersed in something? I know you mentioned music or in sound a lot, so
those actually
is that important for you?
Yes, absolutely. Those 2 things are very important in my mind. A lot of people don't. I think a lot of people drop the ball on those latter 2. Actually,
sound is huge.
Music. The difference. I'll say this right now. You want to know how big a difference music is, and if like for somebody who's listening and you want to really know the difference of it, watch a scary movie, but watch it edited without the scary music added onto it. That will absolutely change how you are pulled into that moment. There will obviously be anticipation for the moments and whatnot, but if you watch a movie, obviously
I imagine everything would feel a lot flatter. Like
everything would be a lot more dull.
That would, like, anytime something would jump out or something, it just wouldn't have the punch.
It wouldn't. The music truly draws you in on a very subtle but fundamental level. It sets the tone. Your ears, even if you're not fully cognizant of the music that's being played as it's slowly rising in volume, and some of the best people will do this very subtly, where they just bring it in very carefully. But if you're not really cognizant of that music coming in, you're still picking it up. You're still hearing it. You may just not be fully aware of it. Your mind is still reacting to that. Suddenly, those scary moments become way scarier and get you way harder, because that music has been starting to rise and rise and rise until it hits the crescendo with the moment that it's supposed to align with, and it's really, really good.
Sound
Without
is
music,
just the most important part of anything that's trying to scare you.
Yes, it is absolutely necessary for scares, but it's still needed for immersion in general. If you lack sound, if you lack music, it's not going to happen.
I was trying to think, because generally I think it doesn't affect me as much for my immersion, because I always want to have something else, like some show or movie playing on, or other music outside of the game playing, just because it's something I've always done. Even in my early gaming, I almost always had my games on mute. Even, yeah. So, but now that I think about it, the Persona 5, just going around town music helps me really just set the mood of the game and just lets me just play for hours on end because it's just so delightful.
Yeah,
and
it's
it makes all of the life sim aspects, instead of being tedious, they're just way more enjoyable because of that
you're listening to good tunes while you're doing it.
Yeah, you've got good tunes, you've got good sounds.
Yeah,
it all helps. It's one of the hardest parts, like when you're running a tabletop game, is actually trying to find good. I actually dread when I'm running a game through like Roll20 or something. I dread trying to find music because
some of it's bad on there.
Oh, it's really bad. A lot of times I will end up finding music or downloading music and whatnot, and then I will, because you can take soundtracks that you own and whatnot and buy, and you can actually put that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you can actually put it into Roll20. You can actually put custom music in Roll20. All the soundtracks that I have done for my Sunday game have all been custom. They have not been pulled from Roll20.
Cool.
Yes, they are all things I've pulled either from people who do stuff like just ambient stuff, or it's free. I just kind of rip that from the website itself, but I get like a 10-minute clip of it or something, and then I just put that on repeat. But a lot of the music and stuff I pull from, it's very hard when you're trying to run a tabletop game, because music, and this is another very important part for immersion in my eyes, is that music is not only just, you not just need music, you need music that goes properly well with the scene or the event that's currently happening. Obviously, I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but for the sake of it, for the example to the extreme, obviously, if you're having a very touching moment, you don't want to be blaring like freaking hardcore symphonic metal in the background. It's just not. It's not going to do anything for the scene. It's actually going to take you out and be like,
"I'll avenge you, Father, I swear."
It doesn't. It's very jarring.
Cheap.
I've actually found that if you take like the wrong music that's completely opposite of the scene, not only does it pull you from the moment, but you get actually angry at whoever decided that was the right music to play. It makes you angry. It's like, this could have been way done. You could have at least had some sense to it. And it's like, you just blared, freaking, I don't know, Iron Chariots or whatever in the background.
Yeah.
It just doesn't really work. And but like finding music for a game like that, you have to find music that fits the moment. And music in movies and games are generally, if they're done right, you should be working hand in hand with your sound team and your music group, the guys, your composers, because you want music that fits the moment properly. You need them to see what you're trying to do so that they can get a song that conveys it, or vice versa. They're creating a song, and then you, as a writer or developer, use that song that you feel is appropriate for a moment that you'd like to happen here. One or the other has to happen, though generally, and this is me, I actually find it easier on a personal level to find a song and then make a moment that matches the song, as opposed to vice versa.
Yeah.
But I mean, either way, it should be done kind of in this idea is that like, we need a song for this kind of scene. We really want something that takes this. And you either have a song where you can put a picture in your mind towards, or you need to have a picture where our composer can truly put a rhythm and a melody too that will truly encapsulate that scene to the pinnacle of it all. It's a lot of work. It's hard. It's not easy, but it affects it. It helps it, at least in my eye. Could be wrong, but I'm erring on the side of the average person. So, what about what about you, Mao? Because I mean, this is obviously, but
sure.
What to you is very fundamental for immersion, and what more importantly tends to pull you out of an immersive state the quickest?
So there are two sort of ways that I end up getting immersed in my games. Number one is just the world being detailed enough, just enough little things or interesting side quest type situations to where when I notice myself getting sidetracked from the main quest, is when I know I'm like the game's got me hooked, and I'm like,
I mean, I'm like OCD about stuff, so that's just me all the time.
Well, I'm not like
That's
but
then
as
it's a
like
good sign.
someone who's not ever finished the Skyrim main quest, there's just so much to do.
Oh God, yeah.
Like, and I get sidetracked while doing something ad infinitum. It's just because, I end up just so pulled in to what I'm doing, or while playing the game, that I just want to see more. Or the Yakuza game series, when what's the main city? Conjuro? Something like that?
Conjuro?
Something. I can't remember
Conjuro and Makoko ni.
something. Either way. The place it all takes, the setting is just so packed with all sorts of things and people. The whole, Tokyo life and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there are like so many mini games going on to where like I want to see all of these things and experience them, which is one thing that I found kept like just kind of taking me out of it, is when as I was mentioning when we were talking about Yakuza, it was all of the random encounters, like
random encounter. That game does
just
not feel like it's a game that should have had random encounters in it.
like there's just too many for me, and like, I'm trying to go 2 blocks over, and like I end up fighting 3 groups of people. It's not very realistic, and like, that ludonarrative dissonance kicks in. I read a review of Yakuza 3 by actual Yakuza, and they said that was like one of the biggest like things that stood out to them as not being accurate, was like all of the people he's like practically murdering.
Yeah.
He just picks up a scooter and body slams them with it.
That is true. I actually think it's really funny that like actual Yakuza members were like, yeah, we played the game, we actually like it, but this is like the weirdest part.
Yeah. They're like, it's all fairly accurate. Although the other thing is, I don't know if you guys have seen the main character of Yakuza.
Yes.
Kazuma.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. He's got a white suit and a red shirt. They're like, that red shirt is definitely not what someone of his stature should be wearing. Is like, he looks like some like newbie or whatever to the Yakuza. There's just the other thing that really stood out to them. I thought it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, like, but yeah, so part of me just thinks that sort of game, because it's so close to just already like a life sim in a way, with just while telling its own story, that the encounters could be reduced by a large number, probably, outside of the story fights and whatnot. Like like all the random encounters could probably definitely, I don't know, halved maybe. I also find there are certain mechanics that can end up just sort of immersing me, I guess. It's the one more turn or whatever style of gameplay, like Civ, or one more day in Persona 5,
mm-hmm.
when you're on the outside of the dungeon lifestyle management stuff of Persona 5. They're just like they're just done just right, so that you're like, I can just do a little more, and then it's like 2 a.m, you're like, oh god, I need to go to bed.
Yeah, you're like, it'll literally only take me like 5 minutes to get through this day, and then you're like, I'll just do a few more, and then there you are.
It's because I'm just so sucked in, and I'm enjoying the game so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say for me, like RPGs, which are my favorite type of game, immersion is so key to
Mm-hmm.
getting into character, because you're supposed to be role playing the character in even video game RPGs. So yeah, music. Like, I pretty much agree, almost like to the T, with what Meta said. Music is really big.
Mm-hmm.
In video games now, especially voice acting, if it's particularly bad, can really take you out of it. Like sound design is just it's so important because it's weird that it's like it's a visual medium. I mean, it has audio elements too, but like a video game visual. That's like the implication you're getting is like it's mostly visual.
It's a mix.
Yeah, so it's just weird that like audio stuff is what will really take you out.
Sound design is one of those things where if it's good, people don't notice.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely on point. You'll notice really terrible sound design, but you will never actually remember to give praise to anybody when they give a really good sound design.
When it's like the stock, like door opening sound or the Wilhelm scream or
or when someone decides to use the same exact foot noise on every type of material.
Yep.
God, like, wow, this grass is really loud. Clang, clang, clang.
But you know, like, it's really funny too, though, because if you do find like really good sound design, it changes so much. Go play like a game with a really bad, like, I can't even think of a game that's really bad sound design. But like, if you can think of one, play that game and then find a game that has like really good sound design. Certain like games that have good sound design, if they really have good sound design, you will kind of feel like every hit has some weight or power to it. If you're like playing a fighting game or something, and suddenly you watch them like perform like a hitting action, or they like perform like a special ability, and the sound design is on point. It becomes so much better. It really does. It literally sound design. The best put it there. In fact, you know, screw what I just said before. Find a game with great sound design, and then mute the game. Just mute the sound.
Back to that trick.
Yes, do it again, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Suddenly, everything that looked really good and like was like, oh, that looks like it hurt, or oh my god, that's amazing. It's kind of like, it's not that interesting. It lacks a lot of oomph to it.
I'm told Dead Space has great sound design.
I believe, if I remember, I watched a playthrough.
Being as one of the premier horror games, basically.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I think it actually does have some pretty good sound design. I'm not a big fan of like monsters that just jump out of the woodwork every single time to get you, but that game had some really good sound design. There's a lot of good sounds in it. It's really hard to find moments where there aren't that. But you know what? Again, it's a horror game, so sound design should have a very high priority. So.
Yep.
But yes.
I agree with pretty much everything you guys said.